And girls, let's review what we did Friday. We talked about grams, liters, meters, and we came up with where they would be placed on the place value chart. So I started with, what did I start with? 1 meter? Okay, and you just check yours. Make sure you have it all written down. And we said that 1,000 meters would be the same thing as a kilometer. And 100th of a meter is called a what?
1
centimeter. 1,000th of a meter
on a millimeter
is called a millimeter. And then we talked about, what did I write next? Liter or gram? Look at your chart. Gram. Okay. So 1 gram. And we only talked about kilogram with this, okay? We don't hear a lot of centigrams and milligrams. I'm sure we could figure it out, though, if we had to, couldn't we? Because these are all powers of 10. So 1,000 grams is called a kilogram. And, you know, you hear the word kilos. Was it this block that said in Mexico, when you go to the grocery store and you're going to buy apples, it's by the kilos, not the pounds, okay? So the U.S. really is the main country that uses pounds. Okay, and then we also talked about liters, didn't we? And on this one, milliliters, 1,000th of a liter equals a milliliter. And I put a capital L on liter, just to remind us that it's an L, not an I or 1. Okay? So that's a review of how the place value chart actually fits in with the metric system. And whoever came up with this is a genius, aren't they? Yes, you could do this even if you really don't understand it, because it's just moving your digits on the place value. Okay? Place value chart. So then we talked about what it would be if we had 2 meters, right? I got these in the wrong order. Is this 2 meters?
Yeah.
Okay, did we do this page?
Yes.
I'm just going to move it. Now it's in the right order. And we said, okay, the end point's here, 2 meters. How many centimeters would 2 meters be?
200.
And we kind of labeled it, didn't we?
Yes.
And we know that each meter is 100 centimeters. And so we figured out, okay, that would be 200, 100 plus 100. Then it says write a multiplication equation. So we said 2 times, what did we say? 100 equals 200. And then we have to change 100 to an exponent. So 2 times 10 to the second power equals 200. That's a bad 2, but you know what I mean, right? Okay, so now on to the chart. We filled in the chart with our 2 meters and our 200 centimeters, and then if we use our head, we can figure out what the next one would be. What would it be?
2,000.
2,000. And then we already figured out 1.37 was 137 centimeters and 1,370 millimeters, right? So did we write the hints at the bottom yet?
Yes.
So when I'm moving from meters to centimeters, I'm going to multiply by 10 to the second. When I'm moving from meters to millimeters, I'm going to multiply times 10 to the
Third.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a new number. We're going to write a multiplication problem, and we're going to figure it out. All right, are you ready? Okay, 2.6. Now I want you to figure out how many centimeters that is. 2.6 meters. Now what multiplication sentence will we write? Multiply means times, okay? 2.6, and I've got to figure out centimeters. So I go down here to my chart. When I'm going from meters to centimeters, and this is called renaming or converting, okay? What operation do I use? 10 to the second power. So write that down. Solve the problem. Now this is where you can use your blank page on your iPad if you promise not to play around with it, okay? I'm probably not going to move to my blank page. I'm just going to do it right here, okay? But what number will I write on my blank page if I want to practice my decimal hop? Jair, what number will I write on there? 2.6, right? And I'm going to, the decimal trick tells me when I divide, move the decimal to the left. When I multiply, move the decimal to the right. And we're practicing the decimal hop on this problem. You don't have to write it because I wrote it for you. Okay? So get your blank page, write 2.6. Friday we changed the color of our pen when we hopped, didn't we? Everyone needs to do this, either on the edge of your paper if you don't want to mess with your iPad, or on your iPad. Those are your, and did I say write the decimal trick on your iPad? Did I say write the problem on your iPad?
Yes.
No, I did not. I said write 2.6 on your iPad. And then I see Abby's already hopping. How many place values will you move? 2. And when I multiply, my decimal trick says move the decimal to the right. Fill in with a
0.
and then I've got to erase my old stuff, don't I? So my answer is what? 260. Okay, so now we don't have to use the decimal hop on the next one because we have a whole number we can work with. How many place values, boys and girls? Look up at the place value chart. How many place values between centimeters and millimeters? 1. So I can use my 0 trick. Oh gosh, my pointer won't stay, will it? I can use my 0 trick. I'm going to take 260 times 10.
20.
So 2,000, what? 2,600, okay? All right, so that's multiplying. Let's move on. We'll see what order my pages are in. Now, we are going to rename from millimeters and centimeters to meters. And we're going to use, what are we going to use? Division, okay? So I'm going to start out with, and we're going to do the same thing we started with. Let's start with 2,000 millimeters, okay? And on 2,000 millimeters, let's write some hints down here. If I'm going from millimeters to meters, I'm going to divide by, what do you think? 10 to the third power. You know, whenever you're working with millimeters, just assume it's 10 to the third power, okay? And then what if I go from centimeters to meters? Divide by 10 to the second. Good. Okay? So, do I need to use the decimal trick on this, or can I use my 0 trick? So if I do 2,000, you don't have to write this, divided by 10 to the third power, how many zeros can I cross off?
3.
So my answer is how many meters, which you already knew, because we just did that on the other page. Okay? Do you remember how many centimeters that would be? 200. Okay, that didn't take much other than our memory. Now the reason I didn't want you to write this problem is because I want you to make room for the next problem I'm going to give you. Okay? So now I want you to try this. You're going to take 3,560 millimeters and tell me how many meters that is. Now you write the problem. And if I'm going from millimeters to meters, what do I do? Divide by
10 to the third power.
divide by 10 to the third power. Now this is where you can take your blank piece of paper, because I don't have 3 zeros I can cross off, do I? If I don't have 3, I'm not doing it. I'm using the decimal trick. So on your blank piece of paper, blank page, right? Write that number. Now it's a very good idea not to add your comma when you put it on your blank piece of paper. So 3,560. Where's the decimal in this number, Chloe?
After the 0.
I love it. After the 0. Behind the 0, okay? You could also say after the ones place, couldn't you? Yeah? Okay, so there's my decimal. Now I'm going to, what am I going to do? Divide by 10 to the third. Watch me. Now I never mentioned this for sure, but what's wrong with this? What's wrong with how I did that? Go ahead, Chloe.
It landed on the 5.
It landed on the digits, didn't it? When I do this decimal trick,
Lands in between.
I have to land in between. And I didn't say that specifically, but I think you know that, don't you? Okay, so then I'm going to erase, if I can, everything else. And what's my answer?
3 and 560,000.
You could say 3 and 560,000, and I would not count it wrong. What's another way to say that? I gave you a hint because I crossed
3
something out.
and 56 tens.
You're close. 56 what?
Hundreds.
Hundreds. So 3 and 56 hundredths. Now, let's see if that makes sense. If I have 3,000 divided by 1,000, what's my answer going to be? 3, right? 3,000 divided by 1,000 equals 3. Am I pretty close to the whole number of 3?
Yes.
I am. About 3.5 is what it is. Now, anyone want to take a guess on centimeters? Jesus. 350. That's a good guess. 356. Okay. Anyone? George?
356,000.
Oh, for centimeters? Okay, so let's try it. Now, go ahead and write a problem. What problem are you going to write to figure out centimeters? 3,560 divided by what this time?
10 to the second power.
10 to the second power. Okay, good. You're still out there. I was worried. Now, block 1, I had to go around and pinch their cute little cheeks to wake them up. Okay, so 100. Now, I'm going to write what number on my blank page? 3,560. Chloe told us the 0, or the decimals after the 0. 10 to the second power, how many times do I hop it?
2.
Forgot to change my pen color, didn't I?
35 and 6 tenths.
35 and 6/10. Boy, you learned that pretty fast, Jair. So he thought all of a sudden, wait a minute, I don't need that 0. So 35 and 60 hundredths is right, but 35 and 6/10 is another way to say it, okay? Fist to 5. How are you doing on division, multiplication? Okay? All we're doing, good. All we're doing is using the metric system to practice multiplying and dividing by powers of 10. That's it. Okay? So I think we're ready for the problem set. What should I write up at the top?
Your name.
Well, of course, other than your name.
Oh, the decimal trick.
The decimal trick. So I think over here is a pretty good place for me to write it. Decimal trick is opposite of what really happens. Okay, what else do you think I should write at the top of my paper? Got that established. I'll give you a hint. Meters to centimeters. So we'll call this our little cheat sheet, okay? It's not really making us cheat, but it's helping. And I'm going to multiply times 10 to the second. Now, I've already looked ahead, and I see that I'm only converting meters to centimeters and centimeters to meters in this first part, okay? So I'm not going to mention millimeters yet. I'm just writing these two down to help me remember. Now you are more than welcome to use the to use the blank page to practice your decimal trick. Or you can use the edge of your paper if you don't want to go back and forth. However, marker, make sure you write with the pen, not the marker, okay? All right, so we've got the very first problem. They did 3 meters is equal to 300 centimeters. Does that make sense?
Yes.
3 times 100 equals 300. What trick did they use there?
The zero power.
The zero trick. Very good. Okay, so now we're going to do 105 centimeters equals blank meters. So the first thing I want to do is decide, am I multiplying or dividing? That's when I'm going to go up and look at, okay, starting with centimeters. Dividing by 10 to the second. Okay, now I want to use a little bit of logic here. When we can, we're going to use it. Okay? 100 divided by 100. What is it? 1. Okay? So if I do 105 divided by 100, I'm going to get 1 and something, aren't I? Okay? So on your decimal trick, where's the decimal?
Behind the 5.
Behind the 5. Go ahead and hop it twice.
Oh.
And then erase, if you're working on the iPad, erase. And it looks like it's 1 and something. 1 and 5 what? Hundreds. Very good. 1 and 5 hundredths. How many of you like the logical way of figuring it out? I love it. Okay. So the next one, let's see if we can use logic on this one. 1 and 68 hundredths. 1 and 68 hundredths. Now, I'm going from meters to centimeters, so what do I do? Multiplying by 10 to the second. Now, I'm going to say this for you, and I don't want you to shout out any answers. But 1 and 68 hundredths times 100. What's 1 times 100, Vaughn?
100.
Mm-hmm. 100. 100, okay. So my answer is probably going to be in the hundreds place, don't you think?
Yeah.
Okay, so decimal trick, 1 and 68 hundredths. When I multiply, my decimal trick says move the decimal to the right. If I do that, is my answer in the hundreds place?
Yes.
Starting to wonder if I need this decimal trick. So 168. Did you already have that figured out?
Yep.
A lot of times, boys and girls, it helps to say the numbers out loud. Okay, so if you haven't written that on your paper, you're a little bit behind. Okay, let's see if we can use logic on the next one. 80 centimeters. And I'm going from centimeters to meters. Someone besides Jair, tell me what I'm doing here.
Dividing?
Centimeter, is he right?
Yeah.
Very good. Very good, Miguel. Okay, now I'm going to say this out loud. 80 divided by 100. Am I going to be more or less than 1 whole, do you think?
Yes.
Less than 1 whole. Okay, so on my decimal trick, here's my decimal. If I move it twice, Chloe, what's my answer going to be?
0.8.
Okay, so she is thinking this over, aren't you, Chloe? She says 0.8, and then she's not sure. Do I need the 0 for 80 hundredths?
No.
I don't. But I want to say it for you, Chloe, because actually 80 hundredths makes a lot of sense. 80, are you listening? 80 divided by 100 equals 80 hundredths. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Let me show you something else. I don't want to confuse you, but 80 divided by 100. Remember that this line on the fraction can be a division sign. 80 divided by 100 equals 80 hundredths. Oh, that's kind of easy to read, isn't it? So those fractions can help us. And we're going to start using those more and more. Okay, let's look at the next one. I'm going for, whoops, that makes no sense. I'm going from what to what? Meters to centimeters. Meters to centimeters.
We're multiplying.
Was that Jair again?
Yep.
Okay, so 9.2. He says multiplying by 10 to the second. 9 times 100, what is it? Huh? 900. So I have a feeling my answer is going to be 900 and something. Anybody want to take a guess? Alexia?
I'm not guessing, but it isn't multiplying, it's dividing because meters is in the ones place and centimeters is in the hundreds.
You know, that's a good thing that you said that. Because we have to talk about the reason why I multiply, because it's backwards, okay? The reason why I multiply is because my pieces are getting smaller. And the smaller the piece, the more you have. Let me relate it to something you already know, okay? Let's do this. You don't know what I'm doing yet, but you will. This is 1/2. This is 1/4. This is 1/6. Wait a minute, my pieces are getting smaller and my numbers are getting larger. So it's really hard to understand, isn't it? Because normally, the larger the number, the bigger you have, right?
Yeah.
But what it means is the larger the number, the more pieces you have and the tinier they get. Okay? So Alexia, thanks for pointing that out. Because when we move across the place value chart, normally numbers are getting smaller, aren't they?
Yep.
This time pieces are getting smaller. Okay? So you've got, that's why I have you do this, Alexia. Because it gets too confusing otherwise. Okay? I'm glad you said that though. So the pieces are smaller, but the numbers are larger. Okay, so 9 times 100. What did we say it was? 900. So who thinks they know the answer without using anything but their beautiful brain? You ready yet?
920.
You're right. Sometimes we make things harder than they have to be, don't we? So 9 whole. Make sure you look at that. Oh, this one's fun. So if I'm going from centimeters to meters, what do I do?
10 divided by 2.
Okay, divide by 10 to the second power. 4 divided by 100. Watch this. 4 divided by 100. 4 hundredths. What? What did she just do? You're tempted to check this with the decimal hop, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay, let's check it then. 4 divided by 100. Was that 2?
Whoa.
What's my answer?
0.04.
Is that 4 hundredths?
Hundredths.
It is. Okay, so can these fractions help us? 4 divided by 100. In fact, lesson 5 is all about expanded form and we use the fractions.
Oh, no.
It's fun though, you'll like it. Okay, so in the space below, list the letters of the problems where larger units, I think I might want to highlight that, are converted to smaller units. Okay, so which one's larger, meters or centimeters?
Centimeters. Meters.
Meters, even though the numbers are not larger, are they? No. So, meters to centimeters, meters to centimeters, meters to centimeters. All we have to do is write A, C, and E. Put it over here, because you're going to need this space over here to write some other things. Okay? If you're not with me and you've got that stylus in your hand, you know what? I might have to take those iPads away. Okay, so I'm going to move down. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at what I'm converting from. Or what am I renaming from? Meters to millimeters. Okay, let's get that on there. Meters to millimeters. Now, the numbers are getting
Bigger. Smaller.
the numbers are getting bigger, the pieces are getting smaller, so we've got more of them. So when numbers get bigger, I multiply. Okay? But it's really confusing because if I look at the meter stick, those are some tiny pieces on there, aren't there? But there's more of them. Okay? So then from millimeters to meters, what do I do? Opposite, right? Uh-oh, do you see my mistake? Did you make the same?
Yeah.
Sorry. Try not to make the same mistake that Mrs. Lewis made, please. That's going to mess you up for sure, isn't it? I'm having issues with my 3s. Okay, so let's try this. Now, whenever we can, we're going to use logic. Or we'll write a fraction that's really a division problem, okay? And then when we can't use logic or we don't trust ourselves, we'll do the decimal pop.
There are those.
Seriously? It's a Monday.
It's a Tuesday.
It's not. Thank you. Is that bothering you? Let's just, what if we lay it here? Maybe? Woo! Okay, so 3 meters, convert it to millimeters, so 3. What problem will I do?
3 times 10 to the third power equal.
Okay, what trick will I use to do this?
Zero
The
power.
zeros, the zero trick.
300.
What?
300. The 3,000.
Very good, 3,000. You knew that, didn't you, for me?
No.
Okay. So now, let's look at it again. 1.2 meters. And I'm going to millimeters. Now I want to say something for you, okay? 1 whole, which is right here, times 1,000. What's 1 times 1,000? 1,000. So my answer is going to be in the thousands place. Anybody want to give it a try? Josue? I saw you raising your hand. George? It's going to be in the thousands place.
1,200.
You're right. 1,200. Let's check it. Okay? Decimal trick says move the decimal to the right. 1, 2, 3. I'm writing out in space, aren't I?
Yeah.
Okay. My gray space. Is it 1,200?
Yeah.
It is. Okay. 1,200. Okay, let's see what the next one is. Oh, 1,020. 1,020. Don't let me do all the work. You got to figure these out yourself. Now, millimeters to meters. Can you see over my head here? Millimeters to meters. I'm dividing. Now, dividing by 1,000. Let me say this out loud for you. 1,020 divided by 1,000. 1,000 divided by 1,000.
1,000. 0.
1.
Oh, yeah.
So my answer is going to be 1 and something or other. What do you think, Abby?
120.
Okay, now I could write it like this, couldn't I? 1 and 20 thousandths. But what do I not need? The last 0. So it's 1 and 2 what?
2 tenths.
No, it is 1 and 2 hundredths. Now I know what you're thinking. I think I want to prove that. So 1,020 divided by 1,000. 1, 2, 3. Did my decimal end up after the 1? You can barely see it, but yes. 1.20. 1.020. And I don't need that one. That looks funny, doesn't it? Okay, so how are we doing? You say it's hard, but all you have to do is look up here. Okay? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to try the next 3 with your table group. I'm going to pause it while you try it with your table group. Okay? Okay, so what about, let's go with table 6. Table 6, what'd you get on 97 millimeters to meters?
0.097.
So 97 divided by 10 to the 3rd power. You got 0.097. How do you say that?
97 thousandths.
97 thousandths. Now let's see if that makes sense. 97 divided by 1,000 equals 97 thousandths. Let me write that another way. Are you watching? 97 divided by 1,000 equals 97 thousandths. Okay. So how about table 5? 7.28 meters. You're changing it to millimeters times 10 to the 3rd. What'd you get?
7,280.
Let's see if that makes sense. 7 times 1,000.
Yep.
7,000. 7,280. Notice I'm trying to make a definite difference between my comma and my decimal. How am I doing? Are you doing the same thing?
Yes.
It can get confusing. Okay? How about table 3 now? I skipped one. Vaughn, I called your table. So 4,
We didn't do this one.
Uh-oh.
We didn't make
That's
it.
so easy.
table 2.
I wrote it down though.
You wrote it down though. Okay, let's see what you got.
I got,
So you have 4 divided by 1,000.
yeah.
Okay.
So it would be, 4,000.
You're right.
Wow, that was so easy.
4 divided by 1,000 equals
4,000.
4,000.
Excuse me. Oh, we're right.
Some of this is easier than it seems. Okay. Do the next one. It says list, in the space below, list the letters of the problems where smaller units are converted to larger units. So smaller units, which ones are the smallest unit?
0.
The millimeters or the meters?
Millimeters.
Millimeters, okay? So wherever you see millimeters is first, that's going from small to large. So small units to larger units. So we've got C, D, and F.